Hi, this is Raj, your host, Unleashing Talent. Welcome to the Young Talent Career Podcast. And today we would be talking about how to manage stress. And I will be giving you a very high level overview on what stress management is and how we can control stress management and some of my experiences about how stress can be managed. Now, first of all, stress is a natural thing, right? So when we are confronted with a challenge, the stress is natural, right? And when you are stressed, you start thinking of what to do and what not to do and start finding ways. So in fact, a legitimate amount of stress is called the positive stress, and they are helpful in inventing things, discovering things, and finding ways out. When you're not in stress, you're not going to work, right? So please do not misunderstand or take the word stress the way it is being perceived by people. I am absolutely against the way the term stress is being used, stress management is being used. And when people are faced with a challenge, it becomes a stress, and it sometimes leads to a mild depression, and people get disturbed about it. So that does happen, right? So we have to have a mechanism to keep our stress level under control, because if you cross the threshold, then you become more stressed, and it basically impacts your career goal. And as I said, I would be talking more focused on the young talent. And I do a lot of podcasts for very, very senior leaders, but this time, I've decided to do 15-20 podcasts for the young talent, freshers who are looking for jobs in the corporate and they're in a transition situation. So first of all, understand, how well you can cope up with emotions associated with the change. So when things are changing, and we resist to that change, and as a result of that, the stress gets triggered. And sometimes, you get into unfamiliar situations or unpredictable circumstances, while remaining hopeful that things would get better in the future, right? And we come back, and that's pretty natural. So first of all, let us understand and accept the fact that you would have two aspects. Now, that reminds me of another theory that I need to discuss here. So look at two things. One, your skill level and your challenge. So on the one hand, you have the skill. On the other hand, you have the challenge. If you increase your challenge, your skill set may not cope up, and that will result into triggering a stress, right? So you need to increase your skill set, and that challenge would look smaller, correct? If I ask you, have you had such situations in the past? I'm sure many of you would say yes. So a situation that was stressful, you found ways to handle that situation, and when you found ways to handle that situation, you became skilled, and then that challenge became smaller for you, and you set the next level of challenge. So I'm sure the young talent today is smart, so you just work on this kind of principle, the skill and the knowledge versus the challenge, and nothing in between. So don't increase your challenge too much so that you cannot cope up. I mean, that's one thing I could think of. That's one. Now, what are the couple of things that would help you, mitigate the stress or keep you under the control, right? So one is that you have to be flexible, right? So once you are flexible, you adjust, you change your strategy, or you start working differently. You don't get stuck up with just one idea that continues to give you the stress. So flexibility is very important. And second is the stress tolerance, right? So you have to judge yourself how much stress you can tolerate. And if it is beyond, just ignore things, just avoid things, just don't spend too much of time thinking about it, right? So ambiguity and uncertainty are part of our life. So every time we set the future goal, we are getting into the future, and future is ambiguous and uncertain. We cannot predict it. So that's the thinking that's important for all of us to consider. The next is we have to construct the the goal of our life, and that's how we go step by step. The next important thing is the what we call the optimism. So the three aspects. One is our ability to be flexible and maneuver accordingly, and second is the stress tolerance, and then the optimism. That's very important, because you have to be optimistic in all situations that things will not be the way it is. It will change gradually. And I gave you the example of how by developing your skill, you can beat the challenge. By reducing your challenge, you can match the challenge and the skill, and you're okay. So you see, the reasons for stress in a student's life are like this, and I'm sure many of you would have done this, right? So three aspects: being flexible, ability to control and tolerate the stress to a degree, and then having hope and optimism. That's pretty important for all of us. So flexibility would mean understanding emotions, adapting to the emotions or thoughts or behaviors and stuff like that. So in dynamic circumstances, some people who are very rigid or find it hard to change, or stuck in a pattern, in a thought, and they are not ready to listen to anybody and just live in their ideas influenced by a couple of people. That's not correct. That means you will become very, very assertive or aggressive or rigid, and that means your flexibility quotient is low. So you need to be flexible, give time to yourself, talk to people whosoever you have differences with, talk to them, take some advice and things like that. So people who are good at flexibility are what? Just opposite to being rigid. They would listen to people, they would value people's advice and feedback. They'll be open to new ideas, right? And they're ready to change the behavior. So it's very difficult for us to change our behavior, and that also means that you're very rigid. So next time, try to be flexible, and that will solve your ways. You just cannot stick yourself to one idea and just not change. That's not okay for you, because that would trigger stress for you. Remember, we're talking about the stress, right? So coping up with this stressful or difficult situation, and still you believe that you can manage a situation in a very positive manner, is your ability to tolerate the stress. So some people are fearful. Their anxiety level goes very high, and I'm one of them. I become very anxious, and anxiety triggers when there's a stress, and over the period of time I come back. So I've trained myself, but still I get overwhelmed. So I'm very low on stress, personally speaking. But yes, I have mastered it. Maybe I take more time to bounce back, but yes, I do bounce back. So so some people would have very optimistic approach towards the change, and some would be very fearful. So in order to develop high tolerance to stress, it's very important to be very positive, stable, and relaxed, and always be optimistic and hopeful that the things will change. Sometimes I'm sure you would have experienced in your life or somebody else's life that for the immediate time, we feel that no, it's all gone, it's all devastated, it's all over. I did not do well in the exams, or less marks, or less scores, and things like that. Now remember, that's not life. It's an event. It's just an activity. You're not doing well in the exams, or not cracking a competition or losing some time because of whatever situations, remember those small things don't determine your life. They are just bottlenecks or speed breakers, but they cannot stop you. So you have to be hopeful that you will come back, and then only you start taking the positive steps, right? So positive attitude is in the times of adversity and stress and ambiguity situations very, very important, right? And be hopeful that things will get better, and be very confident about the future. So all of us are under pandemic across the globe, but things are coming back, and we cannot think that it will remain like this forever. The process would change, the situation will change, the lifestyle would change, but things would change and it will come back. That's a belief that you have to have. So whatever situation in life that gives you a stress, remember, things will be okay and it will be much better, right? So that's very important. So take it cool, relax, listen to some light music, talk to your parents, mom, dad. Don't create a communication gap with your elders in the family, because they are the ones who are available to you as coaches, counselors, and guides. So I'm hoping this small discussion on stress tolerance was helpful to you. Thanks a lot for your time. Truly appreciate. This one is a bit long, but I just couldn't stop. Thanks a lot. Signing off. Bye-bye.